So I am, I'll just kind of give you even from a heritage perspective. So I'm born in Puerto Rico, pretty much raised in New York, educated in New York, elementary school, middle school, high school, Clark Barton High School in Prospect Heights, if you know the area. I went to Barnard, so graduated from Barnard, went out to Fordham Law. Um, I am a first generation everything, as I often say, just, college, law school, professional, big law. Practiced law for about 15 years. I was an associate and then a partner pretty much at a boutique pharmaceutical defense law firm. About 7 years ago, I made the transition to do diversity and inclusion work full time. I started as a East Coast regional director for an international firm, and now I am at Hogan Lovells as their diversity and inclusion director for the Americas. So I oversee the US, Mexico, and Brazil, and all of our D&I initiatives, particularly its implementation in those regions. During my time, I've always been very civically minded and engaged with my community. I was actually a student who participated in Aspira. So Aspira of New York, started as a Puerto Rican leadership development organization, expanded to Latino. And quite frankly, right now, most of our students are from more immigrant, low-income communities. And so we have students from pretty much everywhere, right? It's not limited to Latino students. However, that is how the program got started. It was started by Dr. Antonia Pantoja, who was also very much sort of involved in in getting bilingual education into our schools. And so Aspira has always been an advocate and very much engaged in providing our students with college access, while at the same time helping them to develop their leadership skills. So I joined the board in about 2013. So it's about, kind of 9 years already. I've served on the board in different capacities. For the last 5 years or so, I serve as the chair of Aspira. And as the chair, we are in an advisory capacity to our CEO, who kind of runs the day-to-day in terms of our implementation. When Aspira started several years ago, and when I was in it, it was very much just high school focused. They're realizing that many of our students and sort of needs in the community, we needed to focus more on our pipeline because we were seeing very high dropout rates. And so in order to address some of that, we started to work within middle schools, and we're actually now have programs that go all the way into the elementary school system. In addition to kind of working from the student side, we run several programs on parent engagement, helping to create education and awareness and opportunities for parents so that they can better support their kids, their education, and ultimately getting more students into high school. So in addition to sort of that development piece, we also have a scholarship for our high school seniors to help them somewhat, be able to fund their college education. That is a very sort of brief overview. In terms of sort of my D&I work, I have sat on several boards. I've served as president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of New York. I've served as chair of the New York State Bar Association's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And I serve on the executive committee of the Hispanic National Bar Association. I've served as general counsel, secretary, sort of vice president, focused on law students in different capacities. So I'll stop there. I'm going to give you a lot of information, and then you can kind of tell me what direction you want to go in.
Yeah, for sure. So Aisha actually will ask our first question. But I want to say that I was thinking my major was sociology. So I was in science major, right? But I changed that to concentration and instead of sociology. And I'm thinking also going into law. And so I love telling you more about this some other time.
Yeah, absolutely. You have my email. You can reach out.
Yeah, Aisha, go ahead. Ask your question.
Hi, Rosalind. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Aisha, and the question I have for you, you kind of already answered some of it, but one of the questions was, how did you feel? Why did you feel the need to be part of Aspira? And then the other one is, what made you passionate about what you do in your workplace? Kind of already answered some of them.
Yeah, so I've always been sort of interested in being an advocate. Community advocacy was very important. So when I got involved with Aspira in high school, it was very much about community service and sort of giving back. And I really appreciated how I was able to sort of build my network through Aspira and sort of meeting students. And I saw the need and the value and importance of having advocates for members of our community, particularly, over the years for our immigrant families that often kind of came here and had a hard time navigating our education system, didn't have sort of the right access and the right power. And so I very much have always been engaged in providing that access and advocacy work. And when I went to law school, it was, with that intention in mind. First few years, I very much focused on my practice, but I wasn't as passionate as I was with kind of the advocacy work that I felt was missing. And that's why I transitioned to full-time diversity and inclusion work, just using my position in society, particularly as a lawyer, to provide that access, that advocacy, and provide just sort of a voice for communities that otherwise were not very well represented. During my 15 years I was actually practicing, I was the only Latina, I was the only woman of color at the firm. So through observation and experiences, I saw some of those challenges that women particularly face in advancing in a space that was majority white men. And so I felt really strongly that it was important to be able to make impact, that I be in a leadership position. So I focused myself on being in leadership positions in order to help other people kind of access and move up their ladder professionally. So, and that's why I am involved in Aspira, because I believe very much in supporting the pipeline so that we have more diverse pipeline of students that are going into not only into the legal field, but just for graduate and additional professional opportunities.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Miguel, and my question for you is, what is your goal? You kind of already touched on this, but just to sum up and maybe go in detail, what is your goal with this organization, and also what are your personal short-term and long-term goals in relation to your work at Aspira?
Yeah, sure. So our goal for Aspira has always been just to sort of be that leading voice for our community. And we have, kind of gone from just focusing on one particular area of the community, from Puerto Rican, expanding to Latino, expanding to basically all elementary school, middle school, high school students that are from underserved neighborhoods. Really making sure that they have access to education, that they have access to their community representatives. So some of the work that we do with our students is helping them to learn how to be self-advocates. We believe in empowerment through leadership. So it's really about empowering people to sort of feel confident with voicing their own opinions about what's going on and being able to become leaders. So it's really about just creating a pipeline of leaders, making sure that our future generations are empowered and have a particular place within our society to continue the work that we've been doing for so many years. So my goal is really just to create that pipeline of future leaders, and so that all of the talent that's in our neighborhoods and that are generally kind of unseen just because of a socioeconomic status doesn't go unheard and unnoticed. So those are my major goals with Aspira.
Hi, Roosevelt.
Hi.
I'm Jamani.
Hi, Jamani.
It's great to hear all of that. I want to pass it over to Fabrizio to ask you another question.
Hello, my name is Fabrizio.
Hi.
And my question for you was, like, I know that you've been doing this for a while at this point, and I'm just wondering, like, what keeps you motivated, right? Because I know, like, at some points when I do something for a long time and maybe I don't see the progress that I would like to see, obviously makes me feel kind of sad, you know, and like it might make me like break this determination that I once had. So I was just wondering, how do you continue doing it?
It's really our students that keep me motivated. Um, Data is important, and it's the data is utilized by our funders and our sponsors to decide whether they should continue to fund our programming. And most of that is we look at head count, how many students are we impacting, what's the level of engagement. Most students that participate in Aspira have about a 95% high school graduation rate, which is extremely high, particularly for students from underserved neighborhoods. So it's always good to have that, but really it's the stories. And if you want to learn a little bit more, I encourage you to take a look at our Circle of Achievers kind of virtual dinner that we had last year. We honored, we always have honorees that are working within the sort of industries that get sponsored by their corporations for the work that they're doing in terms of mentoring. But what we also share is the stories, and you will see and hear directly from our students about the impact that Aspira has made, on their lives. And that's what keeps us going. It's always, one person, another person, and it's just those personal touch points that make the work meaningful to me and very important. It's about keeping our students not only sort of in terms of their education, but keeping them safe, because many of our students that participate in our after school programs, they don't always have a safe place to go if they have parents or so that are working, and they don't always have, sort of meals that are always provided to them. And so there's many things that are happening with our students, which ultimately, kind of result in them being disengaged from their education. And so what we really want to do is keep our students engaged, give them the opportunities to succeed, be healthy emotionally, mentally, physically, in order to be able to thrive. And these are all aspects of some of the work that we're currently doing. Over the years, our mission has expanded, right? We don't just focus on the academics, but we really focused on the student as a whole. And sometimes that's helping them be healthy from a mental standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. Sometimes it's helping them get mentorship. A lot of times is working with them on their confidence in order for them to be able to achieve the dreams that they've set forth. So every time I meet a student or hear their story, it really personally motivates me to continue to do the work, regardless of what's happening, around and in society. So just, one person at a time.
Thank you for your answer.
That's really good to hear. It's honestly really admirable that you're always motivated by these stories. It's great. I wish I always had this motivation that you have, but I'm gonna pass it over to Ivana for another question.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Rosevelie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here again to answer our questions. And my question for you is that as a diversity and inclusion director of Americas at Hugon Levels, does your work there help you shape your vision and also the ideas that you put into action at Aspira?
It does, because it allows me to see some of the gaps, particularly how is it that, just not only looking at sort of the pipeline, but what are the development areas that we need to focus on to get our students prepared to be, kind of seen as competitive for many of these programs, particularly through corporate America. It allows me to show our students what corporate America looks like. Before COVID, we often would host trips where I would bring the students into the big law firms, and they would kind of get to see what it's like. They would meet other Latino lawyers, they would meet other, lawyers of color in general. And for many of our students, this is the first time that they're sort of seeing a lawyer, or seeing a lawyer beyond a criminal space, right? Many of our students, unfortunately, sort of what they've experienced in their lives has been just having their family members go through system issues, and that's the extent of what they do, what lawyers sort of do. So it's a very sort of limited perspective. So we've been able to kind of broaden that perspective for them. The last time that we were able to bring students in, we got thank you letters. Students had said, I'd never been into the city. It's the first time that I've been into the city. We had students who said, I have never been in a building that high, right? So the views were amazing, right? The lunch was a different types of, so all of these little things that we may take for granted, at least now being in corporate America for so many years, all of them, it was very eye-opening and they're very impressionable. And so what that says, and sort of seeing someone like myself that may be reflected to them, is like, I can see myself in this space, right? It's visible, right? So it's also about creating that visibility in terms of role models for the students and having them an opportunity to just talk to someone about something that they otherwise would not be able to get access to. So I would say that has also been a way that, using this space, and again, just leveraging my voice and having a global platform to bring awareness to the programs that we're sponsoring and the needs of our communities.
Thank you so much.
That's really great. I myself, I don't know much about lawyers other than the stereotypical, like what you see on TV and what you hear. So it's really great to see that, like, from a woman of color, of all people, it's really inspirational. But I'm gonna pass it over to Alina.
Hi, Rosevelie.
Hi.
My name is Alina. We noticed that Aspira has multiple offices throughout the country, and we were wondering, do you find this essential, and what role do you play in the offices that are outside of NYC?
Sure. So we have, Aspira of New York, although it's Aspira of New York, is actually the first Aspira that existed. All the other affiliations have come, with time, but there is an organization, it's Aspirant National. And Aspirant National is basically a group of directors from the various local Aspiras, so various local states. So we have Aspira Philadelphia, Florida, sort of New York. And what we do is we basically, through Aspira National, get together to talk about sort of trends and challenges that we're sort of seeing and advocate more so on the kind of on our legislative side, right? Working with our congressmen and our congresswomen and sort of bringing awareness to them about things that are needed within our states. So it's an opportunity to get together with, kind of like-minded organizations supporting, the same missions and advocating for either funding. So we have sort of, like, for one example, we would have Aspira of National would get a grant for mentoring. And that money would then be divided between the various states, and we would be able to use that funding to drive mentorship programs locally. So that's kind of how we use the national platform. It's really about kind of bringing to the forefront the main issues that we're seeing in our underserved communities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Rosevelie. So we're actually about to wrap it up because we know that you have to go.
Mhm.
So we have about 2 more questions left.
Mhm.
And so we'll just try to keep it short, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry. So we're gonna pass it to Pauline.
Okay.
I'm Rosevelie. I'm Paulina,
Hi.
was the girl who was emailing you about this. So I had a question. So as locals of the city, we were just wondering, out of all the cities in cities in the United States, why did you choose New York City, and what motivates you to work here? Because you could have been working in Los Angeles or in Chicago. So we just wanted to know why New York City.
That's interesting because I kind of look back and I really didn't apply for any schools outside of New York, and mostly lack of experience and sort of thinking about what opportunities there would be. Being the first person in my family to go to college, I was sort of limited, right? You all have the benefit of sort of the internet world. I did not at the time when I was applying to college, right? It was still looking at the books and what schools were available and hearing from people. So, I was very much focused just on local schools, thinking about funding, not having money. So I looked at some of the city colleges, some of the state colleges. My family didn't really know the difference, right? I knew I was going to go to college, and that was sort of the importance, but I did have a really good guidance counselor who introduced me to Barnard, and I got a full scholarship. So I stayed in New York City. And I went to Barnard, and it was a great experience for me. And then, just for law school, again, just sort of thinking from a financial, I didn't look at law schools outside of New York, but having kind of grown up in Williamsburg, the old Williamsburg, because my Williamsburg is not what it's like now. There was, a very huge Latino community, and I've always sort of worked on advocating in the space. And so this is sort of the place that I decided to sort of build my career. Now, in my current role that's global, I do have now an opportunity, and I travel across the US and Mexico and Brazil and really get more involved on what we're doing on the ground in those states. And so our offices in those states support local initiatives. Some organizations sort of similar to Aspira. In other instances, it might be other types of community organizations geared towards serving underserved communities. So I get the opportunity to use a global platform now to sort of be outside of New York. But New York is also sort of a hub in terms of kind of more diversity. So they're definitely a great place to sponsor and support our pipeline programs.
Thank you so much for your time, Rosevelie.
Yeah.
It's okay if not, but do you have time for one last question?
Yeah, I'll let you answer the question, and I'll hop on teaching my class tonight, which is diversity and inclusion in law practice for the law
wow.
students.
That sounds great. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Cynthia and then we'll close out.
So, hi, Rosevelie, it's
Hi.
Cynthia. One thing that we were all wondering is just what we as high schoolers or teenagers in general, what we can do to make a difference on this particular issue, or how we can help support young immigrants in New York City.
Yeah, so what I would say is, so Aspira has a home club for high school. Meaning that you don't have to have a club within your high school. It's just kind of students who are interested in the mission of Aspira and want to get together. And what we do through the home club is we sponsor many community engagement. We sort of listen to our students, like, what are priorities for us? Like, what do we want to engage? We may be engaging in issues to supporting some of our LGBTQ plus, high school students and kind of creating safe spaces. And so that might be a project that they'll be working on. Through the Aspira Home Club, we also launch opportunities, like I said earlier, to participate in our legislative processes. So we spend several weeks with the students, getting them ready to go up to Albany to advocate on issues to their council people. So that might be a way. It's also just about creating awareness around sort of some of the challenges that our immigrant students are facing. So using sort of your voice, using your platform, and this is a great platform to bring kind of awareness to the space. It's also, where you can think about serving as a mentor for a middle school or an elementary school students, because just seeing you and your roles and, how proactive you're being with this program and the questions that you're asking, I can see how our students would be able to benefit from your mentorship. So even if you decide as a group, we're going to dedicate, 25 hours, we could easily put you in contact with the Aspira CEO and say, there's an opportunity to engage with students. You can help students tutoring, you can help students applying for high school, right? Some of our students are coming from, backgrounds where they didn't know they didn't have to apply to a high school. And that high school application process can be very overwhelming, as I'm sure you've all kind of experienced. But it can also be very limiting if you don't take the time to apply to schools outside of your area, right? If you happen to live in an area where the school is not the best school, if you want to go to a school that has, greater access to opportunities. And so how do I go about that? And, you can dedicate some time to helping some of our middle schoolers navigate those processes.
Thank you so much for interviewing with us, Ms. Rosevelie. This has been very enlightening and empowering for us all. I'm pretty sure we can all agree on that. And we will definitely utilize the knowledge you gave us for our FNC project. And I hope we will inform you about this soon.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much and have a great night.
Yeah, thank you all. It's been great meeting you. Some great questions. And if you want to follow up, you have my email. And I put in the chat the link to the video. You don't have to watch all of it, but if you fast forward a little bit, you'll see some of the, and I think it'll be great. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good